I guess it really, if I were to advise or offer my 2 cents to any vendor, I would express the need for diversity.
In this episode of Voices from the Field, Samantha O'Byrne, the CEO of the O'Hara Commons and Sustainability Center Farmers Market in Hamilton, Montana, gives us a behind-the-scenes look at the role of a farmers market manager in a conversation with NCAT Sustainable Agriculture Specialist Omar Rodriguez. Key to Samantha's management philosophy is a dedication to local foods and the desire to ensure that both the market and the farmers who offer their goods for sale succeed through mutual support and engagement. The podcast was recorded outside, so you'll hear some background noises, but stick with it. The conversation's worth it. Let's listen.
We're here with Samantha O'Brien. Is it O'Brien?
It's O'Byrne.
O'Byrne. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Well, anyway, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I have lived in Ravalli County since 1998, and I've seen lots of changes here. When we moved here, we knew that this was where we were going to stay. So we took some time searching for the perfect place, and here we are.
In Hamilton, Montana.
In Hamilton, Montana, yeah. And so within 4 years of moving here, I had the opportunity during that time, to work for Garden City Seeds, which was a great seed house that was located right here in Victor, just 8 miles away. Got some experience with garden seeds and greenhouse work, and really at the point in time that I launched out from them, they were getting ready to sell the business. And when they sold, they hung around for a couple more years, and then I found out that their storefront was going out of business. They were trying to start like a little retail thing, but garden retail in northern climates can be a little bit challenging. And so at that point in time, I decided that it was really important for our community to have access to organic sources for our home gardens. So that's when I started a small business, Sam's Spade Garden Tools and Wares, and it closed after 13 years. And the last 3 years, I had already started the transition into starting a nonprofit organization based on the location that the business was at and what our community needed. It was after the 2008 economic collapse, and that is when online shopping really took off. And I saw how that was changing for like a conventional mom and pop brick and mortar type of retail business. And I saw my community needed something different other than just a retail shop. Oh. So then I launched the O'Hara Commons and Sustainability Center. And our mission is empowering a resilient community. And we do it through education, resource sharing, and demonstration gardens. And that within the first year expanded to farmers markets. And so we have had an in-person midweek farmers market since, I think it's been 7 years, but sometimes I lose track of the time. And we started that based on being approached by a woman named Laura Craig, who was currently the Saturday farmers market manager. And she had identified that both the community as well as the growers needed a smaller midweek option. And the grounds here were perfect for starting a farmers market. We can fit 10 vendors onto the grounds, and we really focus on edibles. So we have space to accommodate like ag-based products. So they can be value-added products, but it's all based on Montana agriculture.
And does the number of vendors shift throughout the season, or is it pretty much always at 10?
We can accommodate up to 10 vendors. We don't necessarily think that our visitation base would support more than that, and it's very important for us to make sure that we have kind of a even distribution of the types of products that are available, so everybody is serving a different niche. So we have baked goods, we have 3 produce-based vendors, and each of them kind of specializes in a slightly different thing. We have value-added house of ferments with the fermentation business. And so we try to keep it diversified in order to make sure it's really worth everybody's time.
So as the director of the O'Hara Commons, you're also the market manager?
I am.
So you were just talking about wanting to keep like a diverse kind of product mix in the market. Could you tell us a little more about the kind of behind the scenes work that you do to like prepare a market and make sure that it runs smoothly and it kind of reflects the needs of the community?
Sure. I think first of all, knowing your community. which the work that I've done up until starting the farmers market. I had worked in both the gardening industry and I've worked in the retail industry for a short while in Ravalli County also. So I think I had a good finger on the pulse of our community needs. And running the farmers market takes a lot more time than I would have anticipated. And I tend to be very detail oriented. So at the point in time that we identify, say at the beginning of the season, if we need a new vendor, I will approach somebody who will fit the vacancy to support the overall diversity of the farmers market. And I make it really clear that we're here, like as O'Hara Commons, as the organization, the human input that goes into putting the market on, we are fully dedicated to it throughout the entire season. So when I solicit new vendors, I make sure that they come with an understanding of an equal commitment, because the market is only as good as all of us together make it. And that is really consistency. The one thing that I know about this community is we live in a community that is slow to forgive when you make an error. So like if you don't open the market a couple times because it's not convenient, it's going to take years to recover that visitation again. So that full commitment is really important.
So I guess, do you collect stall fees from?
We do. And basically the fees are enough to cover the insurance.
And that's all it covers, and you kind of subsidize the rest.
We do.
You apply for grants and things.
We do. Yep. We're a membership-based organization, and when we first started, membership, and it still does, membership with the organization comes with certain benefits. We've kind of broadened our definition of what membership does. And not only does it come with benefits, but we make sure, like, for example, we've got resource sharing, we've got a truck share. But one of the things in the most recent years that we've really reinforced with our members is their membership is supporting the work that we do. So that is a revenue stream. We really keep a diverse streams of revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, and in terms of marketing your farmers market, what sort of like outreach and like kind of community involvement do you practice?
So we have a really loyal and dedicated following on our email distribution. So I just sent an email out yesterday and it had a 78% open rate, which is huge. Yeah. And then we also have a really, really high click rate. So to me, that indicates we have an incredibly engaged community. And then, so we do a lot of promotion through email because that's like the cheapest way to do at this point in time. We've got great relationships with local, like Ravalli Republic always does a story on our farmers market at the beginning of the season, which is so wonderful. And June takes a long time. It takes the full month of June for us to really get people reconditioned to come to the farmers market because they've just had 8 months of not coming to the farmers market. So we do a lot with social media also. And we actually do have a part-time employee who helps with the social media outreach.
Don't have time to stay up to date on the freshest sustainable agriculture news, events, and funding opportunities? You can trust NCAT to keep you connected with our weekly harvest e-newsletter. Subscribe today at ncat.org and get your weekly harvest delivered each Wednesday.
A little while ago, you mentioned kind of bringing new farmers into the market. I assume you probably have like a long wait list of farms that want to get in here.
We don't have a really long wait list. I would say it's been real organic and it's been perfectly balanced. But because we are so focused on agricultural-based products, there's not a long wait list. If we were to branch out into arts and crafts and some of the other things that you traditionally see at farmers markets, we would have a really long waiting list. But because of the narrow focus of what we can accommodate and staying true to our mission, which is really local people, local food, we have huge loyalties. So at this point in time, of our 10 vendors, I think 4 of them were founding vendors. And then the other 3 have been with us for a long time, like 2 years in. So,
and what do you attribute that to?
Loyalty and dedication, and people buying into the fact that we're all in it together and we're going to make it great by that constancy, like by being there.
And good sales.
And good sales, yeah. And it's really interesting because with the Wednesday Farmers Market, the in-person market that we run, we've never asked for like any data or any information from any of our vendors. But since we opened the online market, which runs the other 8 months of the year, it's an online platform. And I'm amazed at the economic impact of farmers markets.
Yeah. And so how does that work? How does a farmer sell their product through your website?
So basically, we have an onboarding letter and we just lay out like exactly how it flows. Anybody's welcome as long as they take the time to reach out to our county sanitarian and make sure that they're compliant with all of the rules and regulations for whatever their trade happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be House of Ferments with fermented vegetables, or it could be a farmer who has like 5 extra winter squash that they just want to unload. So we don't have minimums, we don't have contracts, it's an agreement. Almost anybody can list, as long as it's agricultural based. And we do add a 30% on top of whatever their base price is. And that really does make it a sustainable program. And when we were setting up the online market, it was really clear to me that I needed to research other people. And there were a couple organizations in the Valley who've tried similar things, one especially. And I reached out to their board that had dissolved. I reached out to vendors who had participated. And they were really open and they shared their experience, which was not the success that they had hoped it would be. And they guided us around a lot of pitfalls. And one thing that they kept reinforcing from multiple directions and multiple people who've been involved, they kept reinforcing, do not underestimate the cost of what you're about to engage in. So, you have to buy the platform. You have to pay all the fees for all of the credit card processing. You have to have staff. We could not do that with just volunteers. And then we take a lot of the pressure off of our vendors by helping with the packing. So the farmers can just drop off. And we are really trying to use sustainable food packaging, which is why we took that on. So, potatoes we can pack in paper bags, which you couldn't do in a conventional like farmers market setting. Mm-hmm. But we're able to really have a nice control over the packaging that we use. Both the in-person market as well as the online market, there is constant communication.
Yeah.
And when we get ready to do social media posts, we take the time to find out what's going to be available, what can we highlight. We're calling our vendors to see if they have anything special, because this is the time of the year that they are so busy. They're just like getting their booths up and getting their product on the table. And so we try to gently take all of the extra work off of them by making sure that we're communicating with them.
Yeah, holding hands. Yeah, that's something that a lot of other kind of market outlets, it's just impossible because it's not as personal a connection.
Right.
So I guess just in terms of working with vendors, what sorts of kind of insights might a market manager have that could help increase their sales in a particular farmer's market?
Rephrase that question. What kind of insights would the market manager be able to offer the vendors?
Exactly. About the market, about the local population, just in general, kind of like, I guess another way of thinking about it is kind of like, what should a vendor be asking the farmer's market manager if they're interested in selling at a farmer's market?
I suppose because of the size of our market being so small and because of my being such a hands-on market manager, I feel like at the point in time that I do outreach to fill empty spots that may have come up, I feel like I do that initially in the outreach of new vendors. Mm-hmm. Like, we need eggs. We needed eggs for years. And so now this year we added root-bound ranchette. And now we have like a reliable source of eggs at the farmer's market. And they have extra vegetables that they can sell in addition to the eggs. So they have a really nice balance. And I guess that's what it comes to is, doesn't it always? I guess it really, if I were to advise or offer my 2 cents to any vendor, I would express the need for diversity. And it's one of the reasons why my small garden shop business did so well, is it wasn't just garden. I tied in my interest of bird watching and bird feeding with it. And so I had built this incredible year-round gardening shop success story because of the diversification. I would say that would be what I would advise anybody who comes to the market. Mm. Occasionally we fill in our bread with a vendor who has only bread and no sweets and like no pastries. And I can tell you their sales are about a quarter of what vendors who have a diversity of bread products sales would be.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another vendor who sells microgreens. That's Eternal Bloom. And they're doing a great job, and people love the microgreens, but they've diversified in some of their other value-added products that they have. And so it brings more people to your booth. And if somebody comes to your booth, for one thing, the likelihood is that they will then recognize what else you have to offer. So.
Mm-hmm. So a vendor that's maybe able to be flexible and adapt to or listen to what their customers are saying is maybe
Absolutely.
ideal.
And then to know your neighbors at the farmers market also. We have a couple of vendors who initially in word, it seemed like they were going to mirror each other almost identically. So whatever diversity one had, the other one had a similar diversity. And then once they got their table set up and once they got their booth set up, it wasn't the case at all. The only areas where I feel like we haven't had great success are there. We've had a couple incidents where we have a new vendor, we have a new kid on the block, and they don't invest themselves into building the relationships. And it takes at least a year to build your following, to make sure that people are coming to you for a specific reason. And it takes a long time to establish relationships. And that can be painful in your first year because you can be standing there with beautiful strawberries, but everybody knows their strawberries over there are fantastic because they've been selling them for 10 years and they've tasted them. Mm-hmm. And, without spending the time establishing that relationship, it's challenging.
So what other considerations should a prospective vendor be thinking about if they want to work in a farmer's market?
I think it's great to know the other producers, the people who have similar products. And throughout the years that we've been here, all of the produce growers that we've had, they all have their own spin on something. We've got this one produce vendor and Verdura Pastures, mm-hmm. and they've got, I call it a boutique farm. What they do is so unique. They've got fresh cut flowers. They've got beautiful vegetables. They do meats. And they always have something quirky and unique, like kaffir lime leaves. Huh. And they've got this beautiful sign, this great signage. And people will see the sign and they'll beeline to them because they have a question about some unique thing they have on their table.
Yeah.
So knowing your fellow producers and having at least one niche market where you're really pouring into it, it's something that you love because people see that.
I guess I should ask if there's anything I forgot to ask you or if you have any other suggestions or ideas.
Well, to that I can say your first year, don't be discouraged. Know that even though you're walking away from a market not making, you're not going to calculate your hourly wage based on your first year of markets. Mm-hmm. It really is an investment, and trust that when you make that investment, your following will happen. And talk to your market manager. Always communicate. I just had our spot's just a little bit too sunny. Where can we move? Mm-hmm. Always know that line of communication is open because your market manager is invested in the success for everybody. And so we're constantly thinking about how to improve the big picture while working directly with each of the participants and take advantage of all of the free promotions that you have. We just sent out a letter to all of our vendors after the first month, and we're like, okay, so here are some observations. We spend a lot of time building social media campaigns. And every time I send out an email, I'm using original photographs and I need fresh pictures, and I go to people's websites, and I strongly encourage anybody who has a website to make sure that at least once, but better than that, at least quarterly. Once a year is minimum, but quarterly is better. Update your websites to make sure that all of the people who hit your website know where you are present. So in the observation letter that I just sent out to everybody, I asked everyone to check their websites to make sure that their following knows that they're at the Wednesday Farmers Market, and make sure that if social media campaigns go out with their name on it, cross-promote, because we can do that now, and make sure that you share those things, because I'm speaking to the same audience, which is growing by maybe 5 to 10% every year. But that doesn't mean that I'm speaking to your audience. Right. And that's how we will grow the thing together.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to thank you for your time and sharing your story. This is a beautiful farmer's market in a uniquely beautiful place.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Additional information about this episode and related resources can be found at atra.ncat.org. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe to Voices from the Field wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Rich Myers. ATRA, Voices from the Field, is produced by the National Center for Appropriate Technology, headquartered in Butte, Montana. It's supported by the USDA Rural Business Cooperative Service as part of NCAT's ATRA Sustainable Agriculture Program. Any opinions, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this recording are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the USDA or NCAT. We'll catch you again next week, and until then, keep on farming.